Good evening, everyone, and welcome to the zoo. The minions with me this evening are Donkey.
Good evening, everyone.
And Mr. Adam. And there we go, he's back.
Good evening.
And of course, I'm the keeper for the night, Sanguine. How are both of you doing tonight?
Excellent, considering all I've learned in the last half hour.
Hey, how was that Alfred Hitchcock impression? That was pretty good, right?
Good. That was a good intro, yes.
Yeah. I mean, I wish I had my shadow. But,
but no one knows where that is except for the shadow.
Oh. Yeah. Well, yeah, you are correct, sir.
But yes, so do you guys have anything that has happened today that was particularly interesting that you want to share at the start, or?
Wait, you didn't introduce yourself.
I said, of course, I'm the keeper for the evening, Sanguine, didn't I? I could have sworn I did.
Yes, you did. Adam was probably just taking a swing of something when you were.
Possibly.
But yes. So, how are both of you doing? I already went through that, and I forgot. The one part that I did forget to do is I'm doing fairly well as well, because neither of you asked. For shame, not asking the host how they're doing after the host is so kind to ask how you're doing. I see how it is, you lot.
We are in a time warp.
I'm doing rather well, and I had a fantastic dinner tonight. I did some orange ruffy that I marinated in a cilantro lime cremosa sauce that I then plated up with seared / broiled, because I heated up my cast iron grill pan, tossed the fish onto it while it was screaming hot, shoved that underneath a broiler, and got a nice bit of color on each side that way. I plated that up with cilantro lime rice, and then just a mixed green salad with garlic and cilantro white balsamic vinegar, and it ended up delicious. And I'm probably in a few moments here going to be pulling out a dessert of one of my favorite ice creams, Tillamook Malted Moo Milkshake ice cream, which is delicious. It's a malted chocolate chip ice cream, effectively. And I love that malt flavor, which is why I like dark beers. But it will be fantastic for that. Other than that, so like I was asking before we went back to a portion of the intro, any of you guys do anything interesting today or see anything that made you go, what the fuck? Because I have something that I'm going to be ranting about, and I know it's going to be a rant just from how infuriating it is, but I figure I'll be sporting and give you guys a chance first.
I spent last night sleeping in the bank.
Oh my god, hold on.
Sleeping in the bank?
Wait. Yeah, this is a bit to take in. First, Sanguine, you obviously came across something that you need to talk about, but then all of a sudden,
Okay.
Did you go into the bank a bit before it closed, have to use its bathroom, and you were mid-shit when it actually locked up, so you ended up having to just sack out on the floor or something?
Okay. How are you at a bank? What kind of bank?
Well, first of all, it was just that little indoor section that holds the ATMs that's open 24/7.
Okay, I was about to ask if the other reason was that we were wrong on the type of bank, and you just got very sleepy after a donation.
The reason was I locked myself out, didn't have my phone, so I couldn't contact the security guy inside, and the place I currently live is very strict about its security, so there was no way for me to get back in until the morning maintenance manager lady came back.
Ah, okay. So, I'm assuming that...
It was a warm place within walking distance, so...
And this way he didn't have to take any deposits from the local homeless.
Exactly.
I'm worried that you said exactly, because that implies that there have been other times where...
No.
Refrigerator box is a refrigerator box.
Hey.
We don't have any Canadians on to translate.
Oh my goodness. What does 3 A's mean? We need like a pictograph to translate.
I said exactly because I know exactly what you were referring to, I think.
Are you sure?
Just referring to you getting tucked in by a homeless man, yes. Or more accurately, a homeless man getting tucked into you.
Ooh.
TMI, dude.
Not really TMI so much as just me taking the piss out of you, which you should also be familiar with. Though, at least this time, and since it's me taking the piss out of you and not your normal associates, it's a dry one. And
a dry piss?
Yeah, mine's just verbal.
Whoa.
Are you implying that I actually take these the other way?
When did you become a Disney villain?
No.
Never.
No, right now you did. It's true. We have records. It's being recorded.
Possibly not a full-blown Disney villain, because Disney villains tend to have a nice basso to it. He's more of the Disney villain's mook.
Is he going to turn into a dragon or something? Or
No,
like
he's going to be one of the hyena from the Lion.
Okay, we can't encourage this.
No, it is no. Moving on swiftly.
Yeah.
Your rant, good sir.
What rant?
Before I get into my rant, Adam, did you have anything that you want to...
I don't even know what day it is anymore.
Fair enough. After that conversation, I think it's fair that you lost track of time.
What the hell just happened?
I don't know.
Like
rapid fire gay jokes about Eeyore being bummed and pissed off by bums. That's what just happened.
Wow. That was awesome. I'm not gonna lie, that was
just to bring everyone back up to speed, make sure that everyone's on level footing when it comes to
Are we live?
Yes, we're absolutely
Holy
live.
Shit. Oh my.
But yes, all of that was said live on air. The intimations that
he turned into a dragon.
Yep, the intimations that Eeyore likes to give some comfort and company to the local homeless population.
Wait,
was all live on air. And as for the thing that has me rather pissed off and will get me into a full-blown rant, I am getting absolutely fucking incandescent over the gormless motherfucking Luddites that like to socially signal their, oh, see, I'm on the right side, because money shouldn't be spent on science and technology and development of things that will actually benefit everything. No. There are starving people, and how is science ever going to help starving people? Except for the fact that every time that we've had a reduction in the number of starving people, other than just mass slaughter of an entire population, has been due to fucking scientific developments. Do you think that it's a just quirk of the modern day that the West, the marks of poverty for the first time in fucking human history, and I mean in the sum total of human history, the marks of poverty are obesity, diabetes, and gout? Fucking gout in a poor population? That's a fucking rarity. Do you understand how goddamn rare that is? Normally, the way that you tell the poor of a community, the truly impoverished of a community, the hallmarks of that population are starvation, nutrient deficiency, and vitamin deficiency. We have an overabundance as the mark of poverty within the Western world somehow, and you think that this is just, what, some weird quirk of fucking history? No, this is because technology has made food so ridiculously abundant in the Western world and so cheap that even the poorest among us are able to buy some ridiculously calorically dense foods. Science and technology has always been the way that people are raised up out of poverty. When you look back in time, the vast majority of the human population was truly impoverished. Not just relatively impoverished, but impoverished on an absolute scale. Something that is almost unheard of in the Western world. The vast majority of people in the Western world, especially in the US, if you live in the US, you are more likely than not in the top 1% of the world when it comes to earnings.
Yeah, doesn't it only take about 30,000 US dollars average salary a year to be in the top 1% of the world?
Yep, it's 30,000 USD to be in the top 1% of the world. And even if you're
and you can get that off of half of the disability programs, probably.
And if you're poor, you're probably still in the top 1.5. And I mean, not just kind of poor, I mean homeless, begging on the street, you're probably still in the top 1.5 within the world if you are actually homeless within the United States. So the reason why the United States has such a massive spread of luxuries, or what would be considered luxury goods but are now being considered just common things that everyone needs to have, like refrigerators. Do you understand how recently refrigerators in every home became a thing?
60s.
Like, yeah, it was 60s. Air conditioners. Do you understand how short of a period of time we've had air conditioners and how sharply their prices have fallen over that period of time? It went from the point where, just going back a few decades, a family that was well off, going back like 4, maybe 5 decades, if a family was rather well off, they might be able to afford an air conditioner. Now the vast majority of people that live below the poverty line in the United States have air conditioners. 80% of them have refrigerators. The vast majority have what would have been considered luxuries just mere years ago. The vast majority of the population has cell phones, to include the homeless. It is absolutely infuriating that people keep on saying, what is science ever going to do in order to reduce population? What is science ever going to do in order to make it so that fewer people starve every year? And they always do it in the most infuriating fashion, because the one that is currently in vogue at the moment for some fucking reason is people keep on going after Elon Musk and SpaceX because why are we spending so much money on space programs and technology for them when there are poor people? Listen, you ignorant motherfucker. The man is talking about doing Mars missions. Do you know what will be needed in order to do a Mars mission? Because he's not just talking about one-time trip to Mars and then back. No, his long-term goal is a fucking Mars colony. He has moon colony goals. Do you know what will need to happen in order for that to even be a possibility to happen?
Huge scientific developments.
Huge scientific developments, and two of them especially will directly impact the rate of starvation in the world. Those two technologies that will directly influence us are, in order to make the trip from the world, from Earth to Mars and back, you need two technologies. You absolutely need two technologies, let alone to do colonies when it comes to it. The first technology is ridiculously long-term food storage and efficiently done ridiculously long-term food storage. Because if you try to haul up food, just bog standard food, into space and do a Mars trip with that, your food is going to spoil. You're going to have rampant spoilage, and it's just going to go to shit. One of the problems with the Earth is that resources are not equally distributed around the Earth. They are ridiculously concentrated, and pretty much every resource that you can think of is ridiculously concentrated when it comes to the Earth. We're lucky in North America, because North America is damn near the richest plot of land on Earth, and I mean that by pretty much every metric. When you're talking about the amount of arable land, North America has an obscene amount of arable land, to the point where it fucking dwarfs Europe's arable land, and it puts to shame Asia and Africa's arable land. Well, Asia's arable land is probably the closest when it comes to this, but still, the US has probably, at the very least, the greatest concentration of arable land, if not the actual greatest square footage of arable land in the entire world. So we're lucky when it comes to food. We're lucky when it comes to our waterways, because we have an obscene number of waterways and lakes and shit like that running through North America. That means that we have fresh water, we have food. Guess what we also have? We have ridiculous oil and natural gas and coal deposits in North America. So that handles energy resources. Guess what we also have? We also have ridiculous rare earth metal deposits in North America. That handles a lot of other shit. We had ridiculous gold, we had ridiculous silver, we had ridiculous iron, we had ridiculous coke, we had ridiculous lime, we had fucking everything that you need in order to manage a modern industrial civilization is in ridiculous abundance in North America. This is not true of everywhere. And so many fucking people seem to think that this is true of everywhere. That, oh yeah, the reason why Africa is dealing with so much starvation is because it's rich people are hoarding food. No, it's because a large chunk, maybe not the vast majority, but a massive chunk of Africa is non-arable land. It cannot sustain agriculture on large scale. So while the North America, US, Canada, Mexico can produce a fuck ton of food, that food has a limited amount of ability to be transported, because spoilage is an absolute motherfucker when it comes to transporting food. So by the time that we'd be able to transport the food from the US, let's say, to all of the worst affected countries when it comes to starvation, a large chunk of the food that we just transported has already spoiled.
Even if by plane?
By plane, it becomes prohibitively expensive, effectively. Because
fair enough. I was just bringing that up.
Yep, the most efficient shipping methods of large goods from one continent to another, if they aren't
refrigerated containers.
Refrigerated containers on shipping barges or massive shipping vessels. Because that costs fucking pennies on the dollar in order to transport that way. If even pennies on the dollar. Whereas if you're talking just like an entire fucking fleet of Hercules airlifts that are constantly going between the US, Canada, and Africa, the price has just gone up to the point where no one can sustain that.
Mm-hmm.
So if you want to have the global supply of food actually be able to be distributed more equally and be distributed in such a way that spoilage isn't really a problem and people can get food wherever the fuck they are, even when it's not that great of an area, that will be able to get there and stay cheap enough for them to actually then distribute it and have people be able to consume it, you're going to need a long-term storage technique. What did I just say would be one of the main techs that you'd have to develop for a Mars mission? Oh yeah, long-term storage technique, an efficient long-term storage technique. I wonder how that could be applied to the world in distributing food that is ridiculously concentrated in certain parts of the world, where certain parts are able to grow way more than they need and most parts aren't able to grow what they need. Long-term storage will be a big fucking help for that. Another thing, if you're talking colonies, you aren't going to want to have to shuttle food from Earth to Mars in order to keep people fed on Mars in your Mars colony. Because go back to my Hercules airlifts example.
Jesus freaking Christ on the price.
And then multiply that price by a couple thousand-fold, and you'll be in the ballpark of trying to do the same from the Earth to a Mars colony. No, what you'll need is you'll need an ability to grow food in an area where food is not able to be grown currently. I wonder what that tech could be used for on Earth.
Turning the Sahara into the largest farm on Earth?
Yeah, didn't I just say that a large part of the Earth is not able to actually grow food? But if we develop a technology that allows us to grow food in an area that can't grow food, suddenly we're able to grow food, aren't we? I wonder what the fucking effect of that would be on global starvation, on global hunger levels. Could it be that increasing the supply of food, not only by making it so that the supply of food that we currently have lasts a fuck ton longer so that we massively cut spoilage, but also we're able to produce food in areas that we weren't able to produce food before, might have an impact on global hunger? But no, these people just want to strip away the funding that has been given to space exploration and tech. Again, and this is not the first time that this has happened. This is how the fucking
exactly. Some flashy goal appears in the sky, and all these little technologies required to get there are useful.
And this is how the space program was killed in the first place. Because think about it. We had the fucking space program. We went to the goddamn moon. We were in space. We were doing awesome shit. And then we stopped doing that. There were a couple disasters that pushed that process along, but were the disasters sufficient in order to kill the space program? No, they would not have been. The problem was that we had a bunch of people going, well, why are we wasting money on that? We have poor people. We have hungry people. In the time since the space program was killed stone dead by them, has global hunger reduced drastically due to the new influx of money from stripping it away from these ridiculously important programs that better the whole of human life, not just our society, not just our nation, but the grand total of life on fucking Earth? Did they benefit? No, they kind of remain.
If I may interject.
Go ahead.
In the intervening 30 to 50-ish years, I don't know exactly when the program was killed, general developments and whatnot have had a effect. But I get your point. It would be a lot larger of an effect if we had the space program running all that time.
And also,
hold on. Well, if I may,
yep.
There was a point where NASA focused more on the space station and the shuttle, But unfortunately, it was way too costly to be able to do anything. So ultimately, and again, with what you were saying, Sanguine, they felt. I mean, as far as I've been seeing, they looked at it as, why put the money there as opposed to, the wars and stuff. But recently, didn't they say that they were going to be sending somebody or another mission to the moon early next
Well,
year? So there we go.
Yeah, we were talking about sending people to the moon. We were talking about establishing not just the International Space Station, but other space stations and potentially a moon base. That was always one of the dreams.
a moon base is an amazing idea because Sanguine, you'll know exactly what I'm getting at.
Yes,
If you have to take every liter of fuel from Earth to get to Mars, how much more fuel is that than fuel to get from Earth to the moon? Refuel. You don't need near as much.
Yeah, you turn the moon into a fuel depot.
Well, like a pit stop or a jumping off point.
Yeah, that's what I mean by a fuel depot. But like a galactic, or not intergalactic, an intragalactic, no, intra-solar, let's use that term, intra-solar gas station.
And way down the road, we could do the same with Chiron.
Yep. And there's a hell of a lot of uses that we could have for it. But the problem was that we were developing tech, and in order to do the space race, we developed a fuck ton of tech. And it was the tech that ended up making America the industrial and technological powerhouse that it was. A lot of it was started, not perfected, but it started with the space race. And then other people went, hey, we're going to take this and we're just going to run with it. And shit was developed from it. A hell of a lot of what we use today was gleaned from cast-offs and side developments and just side effects of the space race. Then we killed the space program, effectively. Not entirely, but we mostly killed the space program. And we killed it to the point where there wasn't really new development coming from the space program because we had stripped away the funding for that to spend elsewhere, and we got almost nothing out of what we spent it elsewhere because the developments that you were talking about, Donkey, most of those were not government initiatives.
No, they were not.
Most of those are also things that people are absolutely rabid when it comes to them being talked about in the worst fucking way. One of the examples is GM. And I don't mean General Motors, I mean genetic modification. When we're talking genetic modification allows for ridiculous shit to be done.
And I can use my own country as an example. In terms of very good arable land, Canada only has about 5% of its land mass capable of doing so. A little bit of GMO, we can use that okay land, which is another 20% of the second largest nation on Earth, as arable land.
Yep.
Hold on.
Think about that.
No, you think about this. Hey, listen to me, Canuck. You think about this. You guys are talking about some crazy conspiracy theory stuff.
No, it's not crazy conspiracy theory stuff. This is all very easily demonstrated. GM products are things that will be able to massively improve the supply of food on Earth, and they have massively improved the supply of food on Earth already. And also, they can completely destroy nutrient deficiencies in certain areas. For instance, one of the products that people got bent out of shape for, even though it is one of the single coolest food developments on Earth, is, you both have heard of golden rice, right?
No, this is the
Vaguely.
first time I've heard of it. How do you
Vaguely,
how do
but
you
I'm pretty
achieve-
sure you're going to give a full explanation.
Yep,
Well, hold on. How do you achieve full golden rice?
So golden rice is a genetically modified sort of rice. So it takes a standard white grain of rice, effectively, but it is that species. I can't remember the exact species that they use, but one of those standard crop species. They take those, they modify they do germline modification of them in order to have them include the sequences in order to produce beta carotene. Because beta carotene is then processed by the body and produces vitamins. It's a fantastic little thing. So in areas that most of their diet is rice-based,
There you go.
Asia, a lot of Asia has problems with, I think it's vitamin A. Let me quickly double check. Beta carotene. Yes, it is vitamin A that it gets turned into. So,
Vitamin.
beta carotene, when it gets processed by the body, ends up becoming vitamin A. Vitamin A is important for vision. It also has a bunch of other nice little health perks. So it has a critical role in cell growth, in maintaining your heart, your lungs, your kidneys. There's large portions of the world that have vitamin A deficiencies. So these range from having poor, degraded to non-existent eyesight. Yes, people go blind from vitamin A deficiency. To multiple organ system failure.
That sounds fun.
Golden rice is a GM product that could be grown like standard fucking rice. What did I just say? A lot of these areas have their staple crop as? Oh yeah, it's rice. So you substitute standard rice for golden rice, which is just rice with beta carotene, and suddenly that vitamin A deficiency, however the fuck you want to say it, disappears.
How do you say it?
I say vitamin.
Vitamin A.
But occasionally I say vitamin.
And here's another thing. Rice is easy to produce in abundance. Therefore, it's a cheap, stable crop for a source of vitamin A to anyone.
Yep. And
Yeah.
people got bent out of shape because they get scared about GMO. And can GMO potentially be used for really fucked up things? Yeah. Yeah, it can. Really easily, it can.
Oh,
Just
this
like
transition. Sorry.
Just like how can nuclear technology be used for really fucked up things? Yeah, it can. Can nuclear energy be used for really beneficial technologies for human existence? Power generation? Hell yeah, that's a massive boon for the species. People are throwing out GMO. Like, they're throwing out the baby with the bathwater because they're terrified that it can be used to cause damage. It can, but that means that you have to look at each individual use. Don't look at the grand total and go, well, this can be bad, so no, none. Go, okay. Making golden rice? Yeah, that's a cool idea. You want to make it so that a baby glows green? Why the fuck do you want to do that? No, stop that. That's an easy distinction to make. One's beneficial, one you just look at and you go, what the fuck's wrong with you? And you stop the what the fuck's wrong with you one, you allow the other one to go. The tech that always gets brought up when it comes to GMOs is something that sounds really scary. Have either of you heard of Terminator seeds?
Seeds that automatically seeds that produce unviable offspring.
Yes, seeds that produce a single generation.
Wait,
That-
what was that? What?
Terminator seeds are seeds that can produce a single generation of plant. So if you have, let's say, Terminator corn seed. So it's a corn seed that if you plant it in the ground, you'll grow corn. But then if you take a kernel of corn from your ear of corn, which is a corn seed, and you plant that will not grow. It cannot grow. It will just stop with that single generation. Do you know why Terminator seeds became a thing?
To prevent genetic bullshit from occurring and us accidentally creating a superbug.
Bitch, dude, why are you phoning it in from a 1940s radio? Good God, you Canadians! Look,
he needs it a bit tinnier in order to be 1940s. He needs that proper. Yeah, so we're coming in from.
Let me tell you where the Nazis are. They're over there. And well, hold on. Actually, I was sitting here. I was like, dude, you know what?
Outdoor boys are gonna show them what for, lads. What for?
Okay.
Hold on. Real quick. Let me do my Shark Tank proposal. We gotta set up we gotta revive like the old game show where it has questionnaires and it imposes people to think about these because this is important to learn about.
Mm-hmm.
I would think, and if we could find a way to make it entertaining and oh shit, I guess this is a fourth wall break, but
and
whatever.
it is somewhat what I'm attempting to do with my over-the-top rant here.
Oh, sorry.
No worries at all. I'm trying to keep it interesting with the rant in order to have people follow along and be drawn in by the energetic tirade at fucking tech Luddites.
Well, it was very, very energetic. So, yeah.
So launching back into that, like I didn't stop at all. When you're talking about Terminator seeds were developed for a very specific reason. So one of the companies that got real big in genetic modified foods is a company by the name of Monsanto. Probably most people have heard of Monsanto. It's become the boogeyman of many of the people on the left and the organic foods movement. They're always talking about how Monsanto is this big evil corporation, and they use Terminator seeds as one of the examples of how Monsanto is evil. Monsanto acquired Terminator seeds because they got sued by a bunch of places when their test fields, the crops that they're growing in their test fields, ended up escaping to the land right next to the test field. Now, in pretty much every single example where this happened, Monsanto then went in, they cut the contaminated area, the area where the crops had spilled over. It's not really contaminated, it's just spillover, unintended spillover. They cut that area, they burned the crops that had escaped their test field so that they wouldn't continue to proliferate and they wouldn't cause issues by being invasive species in some of these areas. So they took the measures in order to deal with that. But they were sued because they had escaped their test fields. So what they went is, okay, we don't want to be sued again. So they figured out a way. They didn't figure out, another company figured this out, and then Monsanto acquired the patent for it to produce a type of GM seed that once it's planted and it grows a single generation of crop, that's done. It can't produce any more crops. It just produces that single generation of crop. And they went, okay, brilliant. So what we're going to do is we're going to make it so that all of our test fields are this specific type of seed. All of our test fields are going to be Terminator seed stock. So that we will never have one of our test fields end up escaping. One of our test crops escaping our test field into the surrounding area so that we won't be sued due to that again. sounds really good idea, right? I mean, you don't want to be sued multiple times for the same thing when there's a way that you can stop it. So that's what they did. Go ahead, Adam.
I was. Yeah, I don't want to be sued.
Yeah. So
There's also the fear of introducing errant genetic material into the local supply.
yeah, which is what I was saying with the effectively invasive species type.
I mean, yeah, I was also thinking about like you said spillover, but you're on a roll, so I don't want to. Let's.
So they had that. They produced their Terminator seed stock for their experimental lines. They started growing those, thinking that, okay, now we've solved the problem and people won't have an issue with the fact that we have these test fields. And then they started getting attacked because they have the Terminator seed line. What the fuck? You just got pissed at us because our plants were able to grow in areas where we didn't intend for them to grow. And now you're pissed at us because we just made a way that our plants can't grow in areas where we didn't want them to grow because we got sued for them growing in an area where we didn't want them to grow. We solved the problem that you just sued us for. What the fuck? Why are you pissed off that we have the Terminator seed line? You'll sell that to people. We don't sell it to people. It is an internally used seed line. But you can sell it to people, except we don't. What the fuck? But people kept on attacking them because they had the Terminator seed line. And that sounds scary and bad. And because it sounds scary and bad, it must be scary and bad. When it's just tech. And again, it's this... People will attack new technology, and they'll attack new technology with either it's new and scary, so stop it, or they'll attack it with, well, why are you spending money on that? You should be spending money on this. And the most retarded times are when it's, why are you spending money on space exploration that will require the storage as well as the production methods for food, when you could be using that money in order to solve world hunger? Why are you spending money on discovering GM food stocks that you can make, but you're not spending money on figuring out how to or solve world hunger? You motherfuckers. You're asking them, why aren't you spending money on solving this problem when you could spend money on solving this problem?
Yeah, and a little earlier when you brought up nuclear, I was on the very same page. Why judge all nuclear power stations by Chernobyl and Fukushima?
Yeah, and the thing is, Fukushima should be one of the things that people look at as, my God, nuclear power is fucking amazing.
It survived a magnitude 8 earthquake. And unfortunately, it got hit by both at the same time. And only to date, one person has been confirmed as having died as a direct result of that accident.
Yeah, if you have a power generation facility that gets hit by an earthquake and then a tsunami, and the result is, well, one part of our facility got fucked up.
And one confirmed death to date. Just one.
One part of our facility got fucked up. So that means that the entire facility is down? No, we just have to shut down that one section and clean up that one section. Oh, so that's going to, like, kill hundreds of thousands. No, it's one person to date.
And maybe 100 that have been medically affected. Maybe.
And another one that they always bring up in the, nuclear scary, 3 Mile Island. Because Chernobyl, of course, no one's going to say that Chernobyl was not a horrendous incident. And it was a horrendous incident because seems like communist-made shit is kind of fucked up. Who would have ever guessed?
Old shitty technology, poor workmanship, and the most horrendous recovery effort after the fact.
Who would have guessed that would be a massive fuck-up? Not like everyone would have gone, Wait, so you're going to put a nuclear station that isn't maintained in the hands of people that don't give a shit because they're pretty much paid not to give a shit and will hide everything that goes wrong in order not to be executed by a government that also doesn't give a shit as long as, doesn't give a shit as long as it doesn't make that government look bad. So if they report a problem and they try to actually fix the problem, that will also get them in trouble because that problem will make the government look bad. Yeah, that's going to end poorly. Whereas 3 Mile Island, everyone brings up 3 Mile Island. So, do you know what happened at 3 Mile Island?
Not the specifics, but I know it was another case of nuclear material escaping the plant.
So, 3 Mile Island had a glitch in the system that was caught immediately by one of the redundant systems. So it was a primary system error. It was caught immediately by a secondary system and by the staff who were attentive at the facility. And it was immediately dealt with. It released a belch of radiation. And to be clear, what I mean by a belch of radiation, the amount of radiation that was burped out of 3 Mile Island was, if I remember correctly, I could be slightly wrong, but if I remember correctly, it was equivalent to flying 3 times across the Atlantic.
That doesn't sound bad.
Yeah, it was the same amount of radiation that you would be exposed to by flying 3 times across the Atlantic. Not even 3 times across the Pacific, 3 times across the Atlantic. That was the amount of radiation that the facility released. But people got really scared that, oh my God, that was almost Chernobyl. Chernobyl has a section that is known as Medusa's Foot, which is this radioactive slag that's poured out of the reactor that melted down and is one of the most, if not the most radioactive thing on Earth currently. It is at the core of the facility, and it is so goddamn radioactive that the first few times that we sent shit in to look at it, sending in robots, not people, robots to look at it, the radiation was fucking with the electronics in the robots. We were effectively sending RC, not even real robots, RC cars with a camera attached, effectively. And they were fucking with the RC car and the camera. That's how radioactive it is. 3 Mile Island was nothing like that.
It was, there's a minor issue. It was caught immediately.
Yep. And then we have different generations of nuclear reactors as well. So each generation of nuclear reactor is safer than the last generation of nuclear reactor. So, yeah, if you're talking about the first generation reactors, yeah, they're outdated. Do you know why they're easily called outdated? Because we have the 2nd gen, and actually we have the 3rd gen, and we're working on the 4th gen. Gee, it's kind of like if you're looking at a 1st gen iPhone, and someone goes, well, that's a bit of outdated tech. Yeah, no shit. It's a 1st generation one. We have other generations. When... Oh, go ahead.
I was just going to bring up a perfect example would be France's nuclear industry.
Yep.
No problems. And they run 60% of their nation's power on nuclear.
Yep. And one of the really cool things about the newer generations of reactors. So old reactors were Gen 1 reactors were effectively developed as a part of the Manhattan Project. You guys know this, right?
Built to create the fissionable material more than energy.
They were breeder reactors that were meant to produce the materials needed in order to make weapons. Makes sense because they were made out of the Manhattan Project. If I remember correctly, it was either Gen 1.5 or Gen 2 reactors, were those Gen 1 reactors with effectively a secondary burn chamber, where it then took the material made from the first chamber, and then it used that to make a hell of a lot of energy. Because, surprise, surprise, when you're making weapons-grade radioactive materials, there's a lot of energy in those sons of bitches.
Yeah.
Control the release of that energy, and you have a relatively clean, very safe power source that lasts for years.
Yep. But the problem is that those reactors, if you give those style reactors to a group that is actively trying to develop nuclear weapons, all they have to do is uncouple that first stage and second stage, and now they're just producing the weapons grade material again. Shit, that's a bad idea. No one wants that, because you don't want people who you don't think should be able to get material to then be able to just uncouple the reactor and get the material. That's a bad plan. So we're working on newer reactors. Like I said, I think we currently have Gen 3 reactors are the current generation, and Gen 4 are the next generation. Gen 3 are better than the Gen 1, Gen 1.5, Gen 2, and they are a hell of a lot safer, and they're more difficult to uncouple. But if I remember correctly, you can still modify a Gen 3 to be effectively a Gen 1 breeder. And then you have the Gen 4 reactors. Gen 4 reactors come in a bunch of different forms. The coolest part about Gen 4 reactors is that pretty much every single Gen 4 reactor can't be weaponized.
I've mostly heard of developments in the portability of reactors to such an extent that modern ones, like really modern ones, can be put on the back of a 25-foot flatbed.
Yep, you're talking about like the pebble bed reactors, right?
Mm-hmm. The little ones.
Yeah, and those, the way that they're set up is that, yeah, they can't be weaponized.
Even there's the...
But if a place has experienced a serious power outage, okay, set a reactor up there. There, we have power.
And the really cool thing is that some of those sort of reactors, if I remember all the information that I read about them, some of them are able to be refreshed. The actual material that you get out at the end, you're able to then take that, process it, and suddenly, here, pump that shit back into the instrument again, and you're generating power with the same shit as before. That's fucking awesome. So, okay.
Being able to replenish the nuclear material.
It's effectively... So the way that the pebble bed works, if I remember correctly, is that there's the nuclear material that is then housed in a bunch of other sections, effectively a bunch of other shells, and they're able to take the result at the end, which the material in the very center has run its course. It's done, dusted. The outside can then be... They can take the material back. They can crack it open, harvest the inside, dispose of that, then refill and reship. So it's effectively shipping the 90% of it is the same as it was before. And they're shipping it back and just being able to run it through the instrument again.
Yay.
Yeah, it isn't quite just being able to make a non-radioactive isotope back into a radioactive isotope. That would require...
I would hope that development on that is being taken, because full replenishment would solve a few issues.
Well, full replenishment would effectively require fission first. Or fusion, sorry. Fusion, not fission. Fusion first.
Fair.
You'd need to be able
But-
to refuse the material.
But I look at it this way.
Oh, so
If we're able to
according to Fury Kitten, Gen 5 or 4.5 is self-enriching. And you can use the latent neutron emission from the radiological shield and utilize it to re-enrich these. Oh, okay. So, yeah, they are able to re-enrich a portion of the spent fuel. That's fucking awesome. So, yeah, there's those. Then, like I said, pretty much all of the Gen 4 are non-weaponizable, which means that if we get Gen 4 and Gen 4.5 up and running, and there's a country, let's just pick a random country in the world that
Sudan
claims
there.
to want nuclear power, but we're worried that they might want nuclear weapons. Let's pick a random. Let's go Iran. Just off the top of my head, crazy answer, right? Let's go Iran. So Iran says that it wants nuclear power. If we have Gen 4 and 4.5 reactors, we go, okay, sure, we'll sell you the reactors. We'll send over personnel in order to train your people on how to run the reactors, make sure that everyone's up to snuff on the latest features, and make sure that the facility is built properly. And then, yeah, you can have the Gen 4/4.5 reactors, and you're good to go. If they go, no, we don't want the Gen 4.5 or the Gen 4. We want the Gen 1. You're able to go, why?
What are you up to?
These produce more energy. These are safer. These have all the newest features. These are the best ones. If you're looking for energy generation, you want a Gen 4 or Gen 4.5. Why is it that you're requesting a Gen 1 through 3? Because if you're requesting a Gen 1 through 3, what's the only difference? Oh, yeah, those are all weaponizable. Are you sure you just want this for energy generation? It suddenly becomes a lot easier to call them on their horse shit. Whereas if you only have Gen 1 through 3 and someone says, I want nuclear power, give me the ability to make nuclear generators, you aren't able to go, okay, yeah, these people just want the power. They don't want the generator because you can uncouple a portion of it and then turn it into just a full-blown breeder reactor for weapons-grade material. But once you get the Gen 4, Gen 4.5, you're able to do that. Again, it's almost like technology is the solution to pretty much all of these fucking problems. Surprise, surprise. Turns out putting money in technology fixes issues, just like it has at every other point throughout human history. I don't, like I said at the beginning of this rant, I don't understand the people that will look at technology, look at R&D, look at trying to develop new things and go, why are we spending money on that? We should be fixing problems. You ignorant cunt, they are.
They are thinking with their fifis and not their mind.
Yeah.
I would say a good look would be to the Portuguese and the English exploration and interaction with the Chinese and excuse me, the Chinese, Korean, and Japanese nations.
Mm-hmm.
It was definitely a jump in a jump in technology, and I don't want I don't know how to say like a diplomatic or not diplomatic, but like a governmental like change. You know, like
So would it be, because I'm trying to tease out the idea that you're trying to bring up, is it kind of like when you compare the Americas pre the old world finding them and the old world, and you start looking at, well, why did certain texts get developed in certain areas? Why did certain cultures advance in certain ways while other cultures advanced in other ways? And some texts just didn't get really done. Like if you look at animal husbandry, in the old world, it is goddamn near impossible to figure out when animal husbandry started. Because
somewhere between 8,000 and 12,000 BC.
It's fucking ancient. It is ridiculous. It's hard to pick a civilization that happened in the old world that did not have at least some degree of animal husbandry.
yeah, and it's like swaths, you know.
Yeah. Whereas,
Just to do a quick definition, then, husbandry means what exactly?
Husbandry is the
the husband has to go out and
Let Sanguine define.
Husbandry in this usage is the domestication of an animal line. So, for example, one of the oldest domesticated species on Earth is the dog, followed, I think, very closely by the horse.
Yeah, a lot of that was pre-Neolithic.
Yeah. A lot of that was, and then it progressed until we got the large-scale animal husbandry that you get with the, effectively, start of civilization, where we start having domesticated bovines, domesticated goats, shit like that. But when you look at wide-scale domestication, so horses, dogs, livestock animals, chickens, cows, pigs, all that good shit. It is hard to find a civilization in the old world that did not have that. Which makes it really goddamn hard to figure out exactly when it started. If we know that, yes, if you go back far enough, you are able to go, okay, this wasn't really a thing here, but... And yes, there's the idea that cats kind of domesticated themselves. And there's also the idea that the wolves that became dogs were half domesticated and half self-domesticated, because there's a bit of interplay there.
Mm-hmm.
But when you look at the old world, it's ridiculously common. Like I said, pretty much every civilization, as far back as we can go, with exception, had some form of domestication. When you look at the New World,
one, maybe two civilizations came close.
Yeah, you have a couple of civilizations that, like, the Inca probably had, I always confuse the two, it was either alpaca or llama, and I think it's llama, right?
Llama.
Yeah. Down that far south, I would want to say alpaca.
I can't remember which. I know that it's effectively a point of...
The Incas used llamas. They might have used alpacas as well, but llamas was the at least the one that you'd go to,
Mm-hmm.
Fair enough.
Yeah, but you had the domestication of llamas with the Inca, and then you had here and there a little bit of effectively canine domestication, but you didn't have any domestication of large beasts of burden other than the llama that I'm aware of. Am I correct in that, Adam? Because this is a bit more your specialty than mine.
What, like, hunt? I think they just
Well,
did some, like,
Domestication, not hunting. So
yeah.
actually having domesticated animals. I know that a large chunk of them were, or that they hunted pretty much every animal. But I think the only real good beast of burden that was domesticated in the New World was the llama. Until the Old World clashed with the New World, and then, yeah, suddenly cows,
the equines started showing up.
horses, and all that good shit came over with them.
Well, I mean, the New World. That's kind of a stretch. You know, North and South America.
Yes. So
South
using-
America, they didn't really do a lot of, like, game hunting. You know, there's a lot of
Yep.
fowl and fish, and like small game. Up north, you'd find stuff where it'd be like big game, like bison and stuff, but like sheep and llama, and that's like lamb type of stuff. This lamb meat.
Yeah, that's what I was saying. That there
What's up, Adamantine?
were very few examples of domestication in the New World.
Yeah,
there was a lot of hunting.
They did a lot. They did hunting. They did have like fishing and like capturing of like shellfish and like crustaceans. Like they did. It wasn't like they were sitting there like loincloths and
Oh,
stuff.
I wasn't saying that. I was saying that they had a more rely on the land approach than bend the land to your will.
Yeah, and they ate what animals was around.
Yep. Whereas the Old World had okay, we're going to raise the animals that we eat, and we're also going to hunt, but we're going to keep our cows, we're going to keep our pigs, we're going to keep our sheep, we're going to keep our chickens, we're going to keep our goats and horses and score of other animals. And that was a big thing in the Old World, just to separate every continent other than the Americas. So New World is Americas. Old World, in my usage, is every continent, not the Americas. And not Australia. Australia's just getting left off this conversation.
Afro-Eurasia. There's a nice big word for you.
Yes.
Oh, wait, hold on. But I have a good buddy named Terry out there.
And I think the reason is, and this goes back around to what you were saying earlier, the Americas have a greater amount of natural abundance, removing the environmental need for things like the Neolithic Revolution for the most part even occurring.
That was exactly where I was going to go with it, because there is an absolutely obscene abundance within the Americas when it comes to damn near everything, which the Afro-Eurasia, Old World, however the hell you want to refer to it, that was not the case. You had some areas that had a lot. You had a lot of areas that had almost fucking nothing. And people figured out how to live in all these areas. Also, you had a lot of the time, the people in the areas that didn't really have much were looking at the areas that had a good amount or a fuck ton, and they were constantly trying to come up with ways of taking that. Whereas in the Americas, you had, okay, I got kicked out of that one hunting spot, but there's another good spot here. There's another region here. There's another one here. And there was
I go on a day's walk. There's a nice river. I could get all the fish I want.
Yeah, there were still conflicts. I'm not saying that there weren't conflicts, but they were on a smaller scale. And when it comes to technology, you need, at least the way that I view it, you need several different factors playing off at the same time. You need the right culture for the technology to be put forward, because we've seen chunks of time where it's the culture that stagnates the tech, not the other factors that stagnate the tech. Then you need enough of a need for the tech to be developed, hence the necessity of the mother of invention idea. And finally, you need the resources for the tech. Because if you have absolutely no iron anywhere within your area, you aren't going to develop steel weapons. You're just not, because you lack one of the necessary conditions for developing steel weapons. So you need all of those to coincide for tech to get pushed forward. And in the Americas, you didn't really have as much of the desire, or not the desire, but of the need, because you don't really need to develop as large-scale farming techniques when you have so much goddamn arable land. You don't really need to develop as advanced warfare techniques when your engagements stay fairly small scale. And by war techs, I mean like the advancement from stone to bronze to iron to steel. And yes, Jade and Obsidian weapons do have a degree of very fucking cool. Also, Obsidian does produce insane cutting implements. So that also limits the need for developing better metallurgical techniques, because it took until fairly recently for surgical steel implements to reach a point where we can get as sharp of an edge as Obsidian. So for the longest period of time, even in what we would consider the modern age, the absolute sharpest surgical implements were still Obsidian. And like I said, it's fairly recent that we developed techniques that allow us to get a better edge on steel implements now. So there's all these different factors that play in. And I'm desperately hoping that we're able to get the advancements that we're going for before the culture aspect starts fucking with everything in modern society, because it is trying with goddamn reckless abandon. It is just throwing itself in the way of progress as much as it fucking can, and it is infuriating.
That we have to slow down and wait on the slow march of progress because a few people feel they're going to have hurt fees over it.
A really good example of this is, did you know that the US was going to be making a super collider that was larger than the CERN?
No, but I hope they are still working on that.
No, it was planned decades before the CERN. It was going to be in Texas, if I remember correctly. Let me quickly look up the exact location of the US But yeah, it was originally planned in, let's see, it was meant to be in, Texas. It was going to be in Texas.
Northern
It was
Texas.
meant to be, the exact area was, that's a word that I am not sure exactly how to pronounce. Let's see if it gives a pronunciation key. Waxahachie. That's my best go at it. Waxahachie, something like that. But yeah, it's in kind of like northeastern corner of Texas. And it was going to be bigger than the CERN. It was meant to be built before the CERN. And it was supposed to be done in the mid-1980s. Then government kept slowing it down. Government kept slowing it down. Government kept slowing it down. They started work on it in 1993. Government kept slowing it down. Government kept slowing it down. Government killed it. Yeah, they killed it the same year that they started boring the tunnel.
What?
They started boring the tunnel in 1993. And in 1993, the Congress effectively killed it. They canceled the program in 1993 because they rejected the funding for it, which then meant that the CERN was able to be built before this was, because this one was now completely canceled. And the CERN now has the glory of producing the results that it has. Whereas if we hadn't lost the heart and the will to develop, to push information, we would have had a bigger super collider that would have produced the results faster because it was bigger, it was more powerful, it would have produced the results faster than the CERN did. And we would have continued dominating science in an absolutely amazing way. When you look at the periodic table and you look towards the heavier elements on the periodic table, you'll notice something.
They all turn synthetic at about 100 or so.
Well, the thing that you'll notice is that it becomes effectively, this is the American portion of the periodic table. Because you'll start noticing things like Californium. I think, let's see, what are all the ones in that section? USA.
Berkelium.
Yep, Berkelium. There's a shit ton of them that ended up being named for areas of the U.S., people within the U.S.
I mean, there's, I think, like Americium or something.
There's Californium, Berkelium, Livermorium, Tennessinin. There's a fuck ton of them that are effectively all named after different parts of the U.S. Because guess what country was the one that developed them or found them? Yeah, there's Americinium, Berkelium. Beryllium is, of course, named after a city in India rather than the U.S. There's Californium. It just goes on and on and on because we named a fuck ton of them. And when we named a fuck ton of them, we went, yeah, we're going to just stamp America on them effectively.
I mean, America is best known for being America, fuck yeah.
Yeah. we were America fuck yeah to the nth degree. And we did it because we were the ones developing it. And then we just gave up on a lot of that. Because we started getting all these calls for, why are you spending money on that? You should be spending money on my pet project. Why are you spending it on science? And it pisses me off because we keep seeing this happen. Every time that we start jumping ahead technologically again, every time that we start actually putting money into the future, putting money into making sure that we have a brighter, shinier, more fucking impressive future, we get these ignorant fucks who just want money given to their pet project.
I don't want to bring up this shadowy future if it continues, but SpaceX is actually a harbinger of doom if it's interpreted a certain way. To explain, private companies become involved, do their thing, yada, 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 and eventually, why do we have a government? Companies are doing everything. And you know where I'm going from there.
You're going for the dystopia of
Megacorps.
Megacorps, so the cyberpunk dystopia, effectively.
Yeah.
And
as soon as people start saying companies do everything, why do we need a government?
I'm going to give an answer that you will not like. And I know you will not like this as I give this answer. As long as the tech is developed and improvements are made, I honestly couldn't give a fuck who makes them. If they are made and they end up becoming available to everyone, technological development benefits the whole of the species, not just the people that develop it. Yes, it is possible that Elon Musk and SpaceX could become ridiculously wealthy off of success. And the way that they're going, it looks like that's fairly likely because they are fairly well kicking ass right now. But the tech that they get from that will benefit the whole of the species. Now, are there limits to this? To a certain degree. Yes, there's limits to everything. But if it reaches the point, and yes, there's the Wayland Yutani building better worlds idea, but
that's one end result of this.
Yeah, there's other results of that, and it becomes an issue when you consider the other shit happening in the economy right now with the government mainly, because the government is picking winners and losers, which is never a good thing, and that creates a more dystopian element than if it was entirely just companies living and failing on their own. Because the thing is that if it was companies living and failing on their own, then there's already a sort of check and balance.
Hey, you're talking to an ANCAP minarchist here. You don't need to explain the benefits of corporate interests.
Yep, I know. I'm stressing that, though, because there's a sci-fi series that I absolutely love, and I've recommended it I don't know how many times now, and I will continue to recommend it because it is one of the few sci-fi series that I've ever read where several of the major heroes of the series, or series of series, rather, because it has multiple different time periods and each one has its own series in this overarching universe, are absolute glorious bastard capitalists. To the point where just one of them is such a fuck yeah, I'm made out of money and fuck you sort of character that he's augmented himself so that his head is almost entirely made out of gold. The number of circuits and shit like that running through his head. Because it's a world where there's a bunch of augmentations. So in one section of the story, there's the development of what they call orc tattoos. And the vast majority of people have a light tattooing. But in order to be able to control more and more processes, you have to be able to get more tattoos. One of the main characters, an absolute beautiful son of a bitch, Gorbinelli, has augmented himself to the point where his skin is gold because he opted for golden orc tattoos because, fuck you, I have money. And it has become so dense that, yeah, you can't see anything other than his orc tattoos. Absolutely amazing character, though, because his character can be summed up in, for our species, for my family, for my company. Those are his three objectives. Those are his three central tenets. He will do whatever it takes for his species. He will do whatever it takes for his family. And he will do whatever it takes for his company. And it is absolutely beautiful. Then there's another one who ends up forming a corporate dynasty, effectively. And he's an awesome fucking character as well. I recommend it. The first series in the series of series is the Commonwealth Saga. I recommend picking it up if you like sci-fi. And it is one of the sci-fi worlds that is hopeful, but also fairly realistic. Because it doesn't just go, oh, yeah, these problems are just going to disappear. No, there's still a lot of the same problems that we're dealing with now are still happening in the future because people are people. But a lot of shit has been solved by technology, and more shit is getting solved by technology as the universe ages. But problems are still problems. There's still people that they don't want to deal with the restrictions of governments or of corporations or this or that, so they fuck off and they found their own world. And that's one of the really cool things about the universe. They turned worlds into effectively ideological testing sites. Where if someone decided to fuck off and just start a new world, they did. So you have some worlds that are effectively ancestral monarchies that they've set up and decided, no, fuck everyone else. This is our ancestral monarchy. And anyone that's willing to live there can live there, but fuck you, it's ours. You have other worlds that one of the most interesting ones is a world by the name of Huxley's Haven. And if you're literarily inclined, you'll get the reference there. And in Huxley's Haven, it was effectively a bunch of eugenicists decided to start the world.
Oh, God.
And they started the world by genetically modifying everyone that was willing to go with them and genetically modifying every infant born in that world so that they are perfectly suited to what their role in society will be. Really fucking interesting world to talk about in that series. And like I said, it's a fantastic series. Read that goddamn series. If you like sci-fi, read the Commonwealth Saga. Then go on to the think it's the Faller's Saga, and then finally the Dreaming Void series, or the Void Trilogy is, I think, what it's called. All of those books take place in the same universe, and they have many of the same characters. They're fascinating. I highly recommend. And it's one of those that, because they don't try to go, oh yeah, everything's shit, nor do they try to go, everything's amazing. It's one of those that you're going, this is a future that I could actually see happening. And it continues a lot of the things that are obvious when it comes to shit, like new generations of technology. Who do you think are the first to take on new generations of technology, Donkey?
Typically, the first people to benefit from technologies are the corporate interests that create them, or the governmental interests that fund them, and the super wealthy.
Yep.
Well, obviously the correct answer was cavemans.
Nice.
They benefited from electricity. I mean, obviously, yeah.
But yeah, the story, that series, acknowledges that, yeah, when new tech is developed, the first people that have the money to pay for it when it's still expensive are the rich people. So yeah, they have the latest and greatest tech. Then as time goes on, the price of that tech decreases, so more people get it, and new latest and greatest tech comes into play. So everyone's being raised up as tech comes out. But yeah, you'll have the ridiculously wealthy person will have better coding for their e-butler than the common person. But the common person still reached a point where they have an e-butler. The fantastically wealthy person will have the latest and greatest form of transportation, but the common man still has a form of transportation. Which, that's really fucking realistic, because that's how society works.
I mean, we can even see it in the modern day.
Yeah.
With about $2,000-$3,000, an average person, and $2,000 or $3,000 is a good chunk of change, but it's far from unobtainable for anyone.
Yep.
Can circle the globe in a day.
Yep. Yeah, we have tech that constantly gets moved down in the price of it. I mean, shit. In our lives, because I think I'm the youngest of us, aren't I?
I'd probably be.
Yep.
Are you still in your 20s then?
Yep.
Okay, so you're just a smidge younger than me, because you're probably late 20s, right?
Yep. Mid to late.
Okay, so yeah, you're a smidge younger than I am. And I know Adam's a bit older than I am.
Yep.
But when we were all young, did your family always have a computer, or was it a point in your memory when your family first got a computer?
I can distinctly remember the day.
Yep.
And for the first 2 or 3 years, I wasn't allowed to touch it.
Yep. And how big of an investment was that first computer?
Probably took a month or so.
It was a massive investment for your family, because it was something that wasn't common. It became the, oh yeah, my family has a computer now type deal. Whereas now, your family gets a new computer. Is that news? Or is it just, oh, cool, we have a new one. Okay. Let me go back onto YouTube.
You just made your point in that last sentence. Okay, you got a new computer. Good. I'm watching my video.
Yep. And cell phones, another good example of this. Do you remember your first cell phone?
Yep. It was a hand-me-down from my mother.
Yep. And now, how many people do you know that don't have cell phones?
Few old people, maybe. But even a lot of old people, I see smartphones.
Yeah. Like I said earlier on in the stream, we're at a point where there are legit homeless people that do not have a home, that own a cell phone. And it's not like they are just recently homeless. So their house burned down yesterday, so they still have everything that they had on them when their house burned down. No, I'm talking like people that have been homeless for a few years now.
Mm-hmm.
That have working cell phones.
Another example here in Canada. A homeless man has access to a level of medical assistance equal to that Rockefeller had in the 20s, or superior.
And like I said at the start of the show, we're for the first time in human history at a point where in the Western world, the marks of poverty, again,
Are junk food.
Marks of poverty are obesity, diabetes, and gout. Do you guys know what gout used to be called?
Noble's disease.
Yes, because you get gout by eating really rich food and drinking alcohol.
By downing a double fortified wine and a 24-ounce steak every day.
Yeah, we're now at the point where poor people in the Western world are developing the Noble's disease. We're at a point where the poor people in the Western world are dying of eating too much, not too little. We're at a point in the Western world where calorie-dense food is so fucking abundant that a poor person's more likely to die of a heart attack than they are of malnutrition.
In a messed up sort of way, I would prefer to die of a heart attack rather than starve to death.
Oh yeah, absolutely, without a fucking doubt.
I mean, starving is slow and painful and all that suffering.
We've reached a point where cuts of meat that used to be reserved for only the wealthiest of the wealthy are now commonly available.
Oh, I'll use a more recent example. Lobster. You can get it at all-you-can-eat places now.
Yep.
Go back 50 years? Good luck.
Yeah. It is an absolutely absurd situation that we're in. And yet people are still trying to claim that, well, what has tech ever done for society? What has tech ever done in order to fix these problems?
Actually, I'll go a step further with my example. All-you-can-eats exist.
Yep. And it exists in most places for less than $20.
Exactly. And even made to order all-you-can-eat is typically less than 30.
Yep. Unless you go for like a really high-class one, like a Brazilian grill, and then you're 40-something bucks because you're going to be sitting down and eating like 2 pounds of meat.
But even then, $50 for all you can eat, made to order, fancy ass food.
Yep. Yeah, as I said at the very beginning, it is infuriating to me. it leaves me absolutely incandescent that I keep hearing people make these same arguments again and again and again, despite the sum total of human experience telling them, screaming at them, that you're wrong. They continue to make these arguments, despite every shred of evidence saying that this is how society has solved these problems before. They continue to make these arguments. And they're the same arguments that we've seen kill the programs in previous years, in previous times. And it pisses me off. It is this fucking cloaking yourself in glory while being a Luddite that's actually getting in the way of the solution.
Yeah, I call me a bit backward, but I fully believe that a person in the 1890s would think each and every one of us living today was an emperor.
Yeah, if you ported someone from the past into the modern day.
Not even far past 1890s.
Yeah, not even far past. You ported them into the modern day, and you showed them just the material wealth. Don't show them the society, because once you show them the society, a lot of them will be going, "What the fuck is wrong with you guys?" But just show them, yeah, so this is how much food the average poor person within the United States eats in the current year. And they will be gobsmacked.
Exactly. We jumped so far forward in just the 20th century. It's like, again, we would be called emperors in the 19th century.
Yep. One thing that I wish Skep was on, because I know that he's old enough to remember this. I'm not old enough to remember it, but I know it's a thing that happened fairly recently, and I'm not sure if you guys know about it. So, do you guys know the tradition of giving an orange or a mandarin is the more classic example during Christmas or around Christmas?
I only remember chocolate oranges.
Terry's oranges are delicious, but yeah, there's a old tradition of giving a mandarin orange around Christmas time. And it was something that was started in, I want to say, like the 16 or 1700s, maybe a little bit earlier. Because it was a show of wealth as well as a really damn good gift, because it was a show of wealth. Now, when was the last time that you went into a grocery store and you weren't able to buy a bag of clementines?
I can take the money in front of me, $1.50, and probably get 5 or 6 of them.
Yeah. Yep. Christmas present, bottom of the stocking, tangerines, oranges, mandarins. That was a common thing. And it was like I said, show of opulence, because you were able to afford fresh fruit in the middle of winter. Holy shit. How much did you spend on this? And now we're able to get fresh fruit year fucking round without even thinking about it.
Hold on, does the time reset itself?
Is that to... No, but that was earlier, wasn't it? Yeah, we've already gone through the spring forward and fall back, haven't we?
Yes.
Let me quickly double check. Oh, no, it's the 7th is when that happens.
Okay.
I always forget when that happens, and I just find out when I go into work that night, and I get told, by the way, the clock's changing midnight. Oh, okay. Mid-shift,
boo,
this is going to happen.
Oh, boo, I have to work an extra hour, or, oh, yay, you took an hour off.
Hey, I like that extra hour of sleep.
So do I.
I work during the night, so it's never sleep for me.
And I've had that experience too. Working in a factory, stacking magazines, and oh, that hour never happened. Okay.
Mm-hmm. But yeah, there's a whole bunch of old traditions that now seem ridiculous, because how the hell would giving an orange be a sign of wealth? You can always go and just get an orange at the grocery store. That isn't being wealthy. That's just having like 99 cents.
I'll bring up a minor counterpoint. Giving a pomegranate nowadays could be a sign of wealth, but even then,
it's $1.99 at any grocery store.
Hey, pomegranates are expensive.
It's $1.99 at pretty much any grocery store, unless you're going for the fancier grocery store, and then it might be what, $3?
Yeah.
Yeah, it's simple shit. I live in the middle of the fucking country.
Mm-hmm.
And I can go to my local grocery store and I can pick up star fruit right now if I wanted to.
A tropical fruit grown thousands of kilometers away from you.
Yes, that is popular in Asia and a handful of other places on the other side of the world from me. And I can go and I can buy one right now.
Mm-hmm.
It's absolutely insane, the amount of shit that we have. And we all have that because technology is a hell of a thing, isn't it? Faster shipping means that the chance of spoilage is decreased, even though it's traveling the same distance. The ability to store things in refrigerated shipping containers increases the shelf life of it, reducing spoilage. The ability to fly certain things when they're unable to be shipped by standard methods, because fuck, the market's healthy enough to afford the price increase from doing so they do it, and you get fresher fruit because of it. The supply line increases, the storage capacity increases, the increases in the ability to grow things in interesting locations. Motherfucker, if you wanted to, right now, at this very instant, everyone here could go to just Amazon.com and get a fucking countertop grow light that is already set. It's a hydroponic all-in-one kit that is already set, ready for you to grow countertop herbs. You don't even have to do anything. You can buy it, just sit it on your counter. It tells you when to fill it up with water. It tells you when to pour in a little dash of this or that, and it grows your fucking plants for you. You don't have to worry about where the hell you live. You don't have to worry about your soil quality, because it's a hydroponic kit. It does it all.
Artificial nitrogen fertilizer. Woohoo.
Yep. It's just this little countertop kit that you can get, which, again, the fucking level of technology for that. It's awesome. Tech always helps feed more people. It's how it's always been. But it is reaching that time, and I have ranted for apparently about an hour and 40 minutes about the Luddites currently trying to suppress tech again, which just stop. If you want people to be fed, if you want the rate of absolute poverty in the world to go down, stop trying to say that we shouldn't devote money to tech. That we shouldn't have people who are willing to risk it all on a gamble. Because that's one of the other things about the people getting pissed at Elon Musk for getting wealthy off of SpaceX. Do you guys understand how
he took all the risk?
Yeah, do you understand how big of a gamble dumping money into space tech is? The thing is that every tech that they get from doing that, all of society, all of our species benefits from that tech being developed. But the problem is that there is no way to determine how much money it will take before the first tech that you get out of the system that can turn a profit will be. You don't know if you'll get something that is $1 million idea out of your first $10,000, or if you'll get your first $1 million idea after $1 billion. Do you know what happens if every time that you get $1 million idea, you had to spend $1 billion is? You're suddenly not fantastically wealthy anymore. And we're the modern meaning of Luddite, not the classic Lud-based position of Luddite, but the standard meaning of someone who is against technology. And the thing is that many of the people that are giving these Luddite arguments will, in the same fucking breath, claim, I'm all for science and technology. The problem is that that's always followed with but.
I don't like the fact that some guy is getting rich off of it.
Yep.
Is he? Are you risking becoming homeless over something that might blow up in your face?
And it's not even them saying that they're pissed that someone's becoming wealthy on it, because it goes past that. Like I said, it isn't even that, well, why is he getting wealthy off of this? Because that's a retarded enough argument in and of itself. It's the people that then will go, but why is this money not going towards what I want it to go towards? And the thing that they name is one of the fields that will directly benefit from the needed technology.
Mm-hmm.
Yo, some of these people that just don't understand what the hell is going on.
The only reason those arguments can exist is because technology was so good in the 20th century that all forms of external environmental pressure are gone.
And the only reason why those arguments are able to be heard by everyone is because you're currently using technology from the last time that we did this in order to bitch and moan about someone doing it again. Because how will that technology help anyone, again, as you're using tech that was developed from the last time that someone was trying to do the fucking thing that you're now... You're already a beneficiary of this system, you ignorant fuck.
Multiple times over.
And you're probably benefiting it every time that you decide to drive somewhere. Because if you decide to drive somewhere in the present day, more likely than not, unless you've been there a bunch of times before, And even if you have, quite often, you'll go, okay, let me pull up my GPS. Guess what was needed in order for you to pull up your GPS?
So a couple dozen satellites.
A shit ton of satellites, and not just a shit ton of satellites, but a bunch of experiments that were done in space due to being able to go into space, and then the bunch of tech that we had to develop in order to figure out the timing difference, because time dilation is an absolute son of a bitch. And now we have timing methods that actually work so that your GPS system is able to not only figure out where you are, but that you're there now and not there a few minutes ago. Because that's how tech works again, you ignorant fucks.
And more advanced versions of GPS can tell you in real time traffic volumes.
Yep.
And adapt to them, giving you a faster course.
Yep. Which,
Like,
everything, like I said, everything that these people bring up as a why isn't it going towards this? It's already going to that. Just you're too fucking caught up in wanting to make a political point to actually think through the knockdown effects of what you're saying.
politics and people always have a way of getting in the way of everything.
Mm-hmm.
And I think you now understand why I hate the government as well. Because they enable this shit.
Well, it's not really that they... Here's the thing. When you're dealing with a democratic republic, like we are here, or when you're dealing with a democratic parliamentary system.
A modern, democratically based system.
Yes, when you're dealing with the democratic parliamentary system or the democratic republic that we have here in the States, the thing is that the government is the creation of the people. So the blame goes both ways. It's not just, well, the government is at fault for this. No. Because if everyone made it so that the government allowing this was unpopular, yeah, the skin suits that we currently have in place wouldn't continue doing it. Because a lot of the people that were very for the space race when the space race was happening, the moment that the will of exploration was broken in the American public, were the same ones that went, well, why are we spending money on space?
Because eventually this world will elapse and we'll need to find someplace else.
It isn't even just that. It's because having a massive goal like that, having something to shoot for, creates that drive for tech, and that drive for tech creates tech, and that tech creates a better situation for everyone, and then you cycle that back down into the system, and you get a new drive, and you get more tech, and you get better condition for everyone, and cycle that back in, and you get new drive, new tech, better situation. As long as you're able to keep a dream of the future alive. And that's one of the things that dystopian literature has a place. I will not deny that dystopian literature has a place, because it is where you look at the future and you go, okay, if this bad idea were allowed to have its head, where would it end up? But you need hopeful fiction as well. You need there to be the, my God, isn't the future going to be beautiful? And this is something that I've said before. We used to have a shit ton of cartoons that were made that were the in the future cartoons. And they were amazing. They were weird as hell. They were funny. They were all insanely hopeful, though. Some of them were less overt, the in the future, and were just the Jetsons, where it showed tech and it showed a family. And just look at that tech. Wasn't that tech fucking awesome? The robot nanny, the houses that were just in the sky, the flying cars. That was all fucking awesome. And then you had the more overt in the future cartoons. And those were awesome as well, because it would always be like, in the future, you will no longer have to worry about when food will be ready, because you'll just be able to decide your meal at the drop of the hat, and this handy-dandy machine, the Auto Kitchen, will make your food for you. In the future, aren't things going to be bright? And you would have those cartoons that were just, look at the tech that we can start dreaming of, the tech that we can start moving towards, that we can now just think about how that would affect your life. And yes, you can only do the in the future if you can get the right warble. Also, it helps if you cup your hands in a specific way, just so you get that little bit of tinniness.
Or use a shitty internet connection.
Well, it's more shitty mic. You need one of those old tin cans. But you need to have those things. And one of my favorites was always the in the future cartoons, where it was the splicing animals in the future cartoons. Do either of you remember those?
Splicing animal cartoons? No.
Yes.
No.
Have a cow be able to produce a ton and a half of viable beef because it's the size of an elephant.
Well, I'll give you some of the examples. I remember these cartoons vividly. So one of the bits from it was, are you tired of every family gathering? For Thanksgiving and Christmas, everyone's always fighting over who will have the choicest cut of meat, who will get the leg this year. And if you have a large family, that can always cause one large row, can't it? But in the future, you won't have to worry about this, as the newly spliced Centichicken will allow every member of the house to have a leg. That's right, folks, 100 legs per bird, and everyone in the family and then some can have as many legs for their meal as they want. And it would show just this cartoon chicken walking through a field with 100 legs on the ass end of the chicken. And you would just kind of get that chuckle out of it. And then it would move on, and it would always at the very end, it would have some ridiculous animal that it would be trying to throw in as just a last-minute joke. And it would always be like, and for all the folks at home who have been viewing this program, we ask if you can find it in your hearts and in your homes to house a poor old hootenanny. And it would be a goat and an owl combined. Would be the animal, or it would be some other weird animal that was just based off of a common term or common word that sounded like an animal name. They were amazing. And I used to love those cartoons, but we just stopped making them. And we stopped making them. They're old cartoons. They were old cartoons when I saw them, because I think they were from around the time that we started having a lot of the, well, why are we spending money on this? And once we got that mentality going, those cartoons just died off. And we stopped having those bright looks at the future. We stopped having the, in the future, You will no longer have to drive your own car and worry about traffic conditions. Now, instead, this handy-dandy automobile will be able to drive you safely from point to point in the greatest comfort and ease. And it would be like a full, just like smoking lounge in a car with the person just sitting there.
Several cities have automatic train systems already. There's an example.
Yeah.
I mean, aren't some Japanese cities actually trying with outright autonomous vehicles?
Oh, there's a large number of programs that are currently working on autonomous vehicles. There's a bunch of cities in the US that are test driving autonomous vehicles. They still have a driver, but the driver is there as a safety feature rather than a actual
I could see an autonomous public transit system still having operators for the other needed operations of a transit system.
Yep, but I'm saying that this is even with cars. We have self-driving cars that are being tested in cities.
Hooray.
And there's just a driver sitting behind the wheel that doesn't really do anything else. And yeah, 99% of Musk's ideas do come from old school science fiction magazines, straight up to the point where he literally says, yeah, I just always saw the vertical takeoff and landing in like old cartoons and movies like Flash Gordon, and I think he mentions one of the Superman comics for having vertical takeoff and landing. And he went, we didn't have that. So I went to our engineering team and I started demanding that, no, our vehicle our rocket will have vertical takeoff and landing. That's non-negotiable. We will develop vertical takeoff and landing. And son of a bitch, they have vertical takeoff and landing. That's what I was saying when it comes to we need those things that have those bright representations of the future. The dystopian shit, yeah, like I said, it has its use because it takes bad ideas to their natural end. But not everything has to be dystopian.
No.
And have the bright future that is still dealing with something big. Because you can have, in the Commonwealth series, it is a fairly bright future. There's still problems. It isn't a utopia. But it is... The tech in that is fucking awesome. And it's shit that I'm going, hell yeah. Like, one of the main features of that series is what they call rejuve treatments, which are literally you go to a clinic and you're made young again.
A medical fountain of youth.
Yeah, it's a tech fountain of youth. Where you go in, you go into this clinic, you fill out the information that you want, give information on, like, would you like anything changed about your body? And you're able to go, well, this time I want to be a blonde, or I want to be a redhead, or I want to be this or that. And they go, okay, so just go here, and you go back into the clinic, and you'll receive your treatment. And like a week later, you'll walk out young. And they talk about the things that make sense when it comes to rejuve treatments, where everyone that decides to rejuve to a really young body in their like teens and 20s, because it can go down to like 18 as a rejuve treatment, all of them come out, and it's been so long since these people have had to deal with hormones coursing through their system at teen and early 20 levels that they go a bit batty, and there's rejuve hotspots where it's a bunch of people that are freshly rejuved just fucking like rabbits. Which,
well,
they're certainly rejuve then, huh?
Yeah,
I'm guessing if a person... I'm guessing if a person had, and I'm assuming the increase in lifespan, a century or so of menopause, it immediately goes back to, hey, I'm 20, I gotta go.
Yeah. It's people that are rejuving, so they have massively lengthened lifespans. So you'll look like you're in your 20s and 30s into your like 70s and 80s. And then you'll reach the point where you start looking like you're in your 40s when you're in your 90s after rejuve. Then eventually you decide, yeah, I'm going to rejuve when you're starting to look like you're in your late 40s, early 50s. So you go rejuve, and now suddenly you're like 18 to 20 something.
But your actual age is 100 and some odd.
Yeah, most of the characters in that series, they're hundreds of years old. So the first scene of the first book of the Commonwealth series.
Whoa, okay, hold on. Before you start this, dude, are we gonna close up the shop?
Oh,
or,
yes.
I was about to get to that. Let's chill.
So let's go around.
I mean, you can
do your parting words.
Discuss your stuff, but
yeah, you can do your parting words. We'll sign off, and then I'll tell Donkey about the longevity of the people in the series.
It's always an after party. Hold on. There's always an after party. You folks are more than welcome to join the Discord.
Yep.
Do we have a link in the?
Yeah, it's always sitting in the
right?
description.
Yeah. You should join the Discord, and let's have some chitty chat with us down there.
Mm-hmm.
But yes, so who wants to go first in their parting words?
Donkey?
The world is wonderful. Do not let your cynicism get you down.
Mm-hmm. Adam?
It's always a pleasure joining you guys with chatting, and I always like hanging out with you guys in the minions. It's always fun. Oh, and you know what? I think we should open up a Rumble server. Yeah.
I'm not sure if I'm familiar with what you mean.
Yeah, Rumble. The Rumble server. I think it's called Rumble. Right?
Do you know what he means, Donkey?
Vaguely. I know it's tech alternative, but possibly to Discord. But
okay.
I'm mostly trying to say, let's round this up. We've been keeping our friends long enough.
Okay. Yeah. So yeah.
I just hadn't heard of it.
I think we should. It's a alternative video service.
Okay.
But either way, I appreciate you letting me chat with you.
Always fun.
And as always, love y'all, and God bless. Take care.
Night, everyone.
I'm going to quickly toss a link to my new food Twitter again in chat. If you want to see the sorts of shit that I make, I do a weekly post of all my meals that I had in the previous week and a description of what they are with pictures. Really tasty looking shit. You can ask me any food-based questions that you have over there. Just call me Ask rather than Sanguine. But beyond that, any future food content will be talked about on that Twitter rather than on my current Twitter. And with that, I'll leave off with my standard of if you're passionate about something, make sure that you devour it. Don't let it devour you. And have a good night all. The zoo is closed.
Nice.
This is when you guys say good night.
I already did. Good night.
There we go.